Hello, Ramanju.
Hi,
Congratulations.
good afternoon, and thank
Good
you.
afternoon. So you have cracked your FRM both part in one shot.
Yeah,
Really
so
happy for you. It was an exciting journey, I must say.
yeah, thank you. And 2022 has been productive in
Excellent.
that sense.
Yes,
And
yes,
thank you for your guidance along the way as well. It was very
definitely.
helpful to help to have someone who is available round the clock
Thank you
for
for that.
uh, for,
It's
for
my
for the
duty.
students.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
my duty. So, give your short intro. Let us introduce you to our audience.
sure. So my name is Ramanshu, and yeah, I was attempting FRM level 1 in May 2022, and I cleared that. And then I gave FRM level 2 in November 2022, and the results came out just, I guess, a couple of days back, and I managed to clear that as well. So it's pretty nice feeling at the moment to just think that I don't have to go through the whole curriculum again, because that would have been really painful.
I totally understand. Picking up anything again will be very painful, Ramanju.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
it's
So
basically not only painful. If you'll fail, you will lose your money, hard-earned money. You will
yeah,
lose your time which you have spent over the book.
exactly,
You will lose the confidence to reappear.
exactly,
And
exactly.
sometimes the environment within the house, within the friends, within the family will become so demotivating. Say, oh, I should fail.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
demotivating and very difficult to overcome that as well.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. So as I guess you all always say, right? It's better to do it right the first time. Give it
Yes,
all
yes.
that you have,
Give your best
and
in the very first shot. Don't
yeah,
allow yourself to appear in the next shot. Even
exactly,
if you are left with 60 days, 70 days, 80 days, whatever, give your best and clear it.
exactly. That's the best route, I guess. Yeah.
Tell me something about your previous work experience and
So
why you choose
sure.
for the FRM then.
Sure. So I'll give you my background. I did my master's in Australia, and then I started my working career over there. So I worked for a consulting company that basically designed trading systems. We implemented systems, back office, middle office, and front office across major clients in Australia. So I worked for clients such as JP Morgan, BNP Paribas, and various other asset managers in Australia. So after spending about a decade over there, I took up a role with BNP Paribas in their Chennai offices. So they offered me a role over there. So I moved there, and then I was working there for about 8 years. Again, looking at BNP Paribas systems that they were using for trading and capital markets across the globe, and then designing interfaces and a lot of technical oriented work. So my profile is primarily techno-functional. That's been my domain. Um,
Why you
so yeah,
choose for the FRM?
so it's an interesting story. So I have been hearing about FRM, or I've been wanting to do it for last 10 years, but never got a chance to actually, as you say, start the process. The reason why I was looking for FRM is that in capital markets, and I think that's my intuition, that going forward, the industry will be very, very tightly regulated in terms of everything. So if you see recently in the case of crypto as well, with the FTX collapse, right? All these things, with new financial products coming in, there is going to be an increased focus on regulating those products, or regulating those industries in general. So that's why I thought that it is probably a good idea to equip yourself with that knowledge, and then make sure that you understand the regulatory aspect of it, especially from a banking perspective. And FRM, because it heavily focuses on the Basel Accord, right, and gives you that exposure of how the banks typically manage their risk from a day-to-day basis. So that is what the driving force behind my intention of actually trying to do this.
So how much it was difficult to manage your FRM preparation, considering you are 40 years of age, you have a family, you have a work to do. So how you gave the priority? That's the question of many students at your age who are planning to do. They are struggling between the family, with between their jobs, and then now new thing which is adding to their life is the FRM. How you managed everything?
So first thing first, I think before anyone decides to go ahead with this, they have to firstly be mindful of the fact that this is not going to be an exam which is typical, like your NISM certificate or your typical university exam or anything like that,
Correct, correct,
right? You need to understand that it is a global exam, and you are actually competing with global candidates, right? So effectively, and also you need to understand that this is not a percentage based passing exam. You are scored on percentile, so pretty much at any point in time you have to kind of think that you have to be better than 50% of the other candidates,
correct.
typically.
Yeah,
Right, that's the only parameter that you can think of, and that will give you some kind of intuition of actually going through. So there were no shortcuts, and I think I spoke to you as well, and you said that there is no magic mantra basically. So you have to put in the hours, you have to put in the effort. Doesn't matter if you are already in that industry or not, because I have worked in that industry. I was aware with some of the terms, but even for me, picking up all those concepts and in the detail in which FRM requires, it required a lot of effort. So to answer your question, it is all about consistency. You have to make a routine, and then more importantly, you have to stick to it. So I used to spend about 2.5 hours early morning every day, uh, just to make sure that you don't break that routine. You have that consistency, and then 2.5 hours every day is good enough. I didn't really spend 7 to 8 hours on the weekend or anything like that, but I made sure that I was putting in 2.5 hours consistently over the 6 months.
correct, correct.
And just before the exam, then you have to make sure that if you have some time, then you take some time off, and then you put in the last effort in terms of either revising the curriculum, doing the mocks, and trying to go through the whole curriculum again.
Yeah, basically you want to say everyone plans but unable to execute. So it's more important to execute your plans, to
Yeah,
snatch the time from your busy schedule. Okay, schedule will be busy for sure, but you have to snatch your 2 hours.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
if
and
you're working 12 hours a day or 8 hours sleep, and you are spending 2 hours on other extra curriculum activities, still you are left with 2 hours
yes, exactly.
that you
So
need to spend on FRM just for the sake of 1 year. And yes, thereafter the life will change.
yeah, yeah. So that's what is needed. Yes.
Anything you have sacrificed during this 1 year?
No, not really. As I said, I just made sure that I was consistently putting 2.5 hours, and then I don't recommend that you don't do anything else besides that, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
you lead a normal life. If you do whatever is required, you can continue to do that. But if you want to really get through this, then your 2.5 hours daily is required.
Yeah, consistency, dedication, hard work, these all are the key to success. And once who
Absolutely,
understand this, they will go through it.
absolutely,
Perfect.
absolutely.
So, how's your journey started in 2022 with FRM and how it ended? A small snapshot of the same, how you have initiated and how you landed to that you have passed your both parts.
So as I said, I started. I was planning to give level one in May 2022. So I made up. I decided that I'm going to have a crack at that date in December of 2021. So I kind of started studying from that time frame going forward. So level one is kind of not comparable to level two at all.
Totally,
So
I totally agree.
level two is like completely in a different league. But in level one, it is very important to go through the curriculum in detail. For level one, I think a lot of people think about, they get confused which reading materials to use, which question banks to use, and all of that. I don't think that is that relevant for level one. At least you decide whichever books you are going to consider. For me, Schweizer was good enough. Your videos were very helpful as well. And then you kind of try to understand, have a regular target, 5 6 chapters every week or whatever you decide, and then stick to it. So level one, I think I found it relatively easier. Quants, a lot of people struggle with quants, but I guess once you understand the basics, no one is expecting you to do integration or differentiation in the exam.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally
Ga-
agree.
so GARP also just tests you on your basics and your concepts. So
Concepts are important because things can be done by the computer. There are
e-
algorithms, there are systems. You don't
exactly,
need to do everything from the very basics.
exactly.
Once you
So
understand that what is the outcome of that formula and are you able to interpret that outcome, that's
yes,
important.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that is the key that a lot of students need to understand. They don't need to get overwhelmed by looking at complex calculations of integrations and differentiations and all of that. So don't get into that detail, but at least understand what the eventual outcome is. So for example, if you're studying regression, understand what we are trying to achieve. And if you're able to apply that to any scenario, I think that should be good enough. So I struggled with cons, but actually in the results I got first quartile in cons, which was kind of surprising. Um, but I guess your videos on cons were very helpful. You have structured it very well. So I think I benefited from that. And probability is also something where a lot of students struggle. So again, from a probability perspective, you need to understand how to approach the questions, right? And once you understand the basics, it's not difficult. Uh, and then you have to kind of practice the question banks. That is also critical. And then for the other books, I think I got good second quartile in all of them. Financial market and products is quite interesting because that talks about capital markets in general, all the different instruments. So that portion is quite helpful as well. And then there is a heavy focus on derivatives, uh, which is interesting. And then the book four is also something that you'll have to put some effort in.
Correct, correct, correct. And let's come to part two in the same way. You have
So
described it really well.
so part two is a completely different animal. So when I started looking at the curriculum, I didn't know where to start, where to finish. It was very difficult. One thing for level two that I would recommend is that, in my opinion, in my particular scenario, I found Schweizer not up to the mark. So if someone has got the time, I think they should refer to the original GARP books. I think that will provide you the nice details and the depth that is required to kind of tackle the exam. Um, Level two is is again, you have to kind of basically understand that you can't cover everything. It's just too much. You have to understand which are your strong points, where you struggle, and then you have to capitalize on your strong points. So when I looked at the curriculum, I understood that I can tackle market risk. I was struggling with credit risk, and then I was kind of okay with liquidity and investment risk management and current issues. So I thought that, okay, I'll put my focus in here. I'll make sure that I can tackle any scenarios, any questions based on that. And then there's just too much to retain, right? The problem is we are talking about 100 chapters. And trust me, when you
Okay.
look at the curriculum, you know it, right?
It's
It's
like
like
a
you
dead
have
end sea. You don't know where you need to end.
exactly, exactly. So that's what it is. And I think from exam perspective, really in level two, they're also not looking at checking your memorizing skills or your formulas, retention and all of that. They just want to make sure that you understand. All of the questions that I had in my exam were scenario based, that if you are a risk manager, if this is happening, what would you do?
Correct.
Be it an operational risk. And no question, trust me, was straightforward. No question was there which says that, okay, in the UK, now that the overnight rate, right, whatever the benchmark was there, is now getting phased out, and now we are going to have that SOFR and all of that. What is it that now it's going to happen, right? So no questions were straightforward. Even in the current issues, they were basically checking if you understood the real concept. If you're talking about blockchain, if you do you understand about decentralization of finance and all of that. So you have to make sure that you go to that level of details to be able to get through this.
It's challenging. That's why it's worthwhile doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
And
why it hold the worth around the globe.
yeah, exactly. And
Companies are seeking risk managers, whether in credit risk or market risk domain, and they
yeah,
are unable to find the people with good knowledge, good skills. That's the key
abs-
point. Means people are
abs-
doing FRM just as a sake of degree, but
yes,
FRM don't want GARP Institute don't want them to do just it for the sake of degrees. I personally believe that people should focus on the quality rather than the quantity of degrees. If you do
absolutely.
one degree with perfection, it's more than enough for you. At least for the coming decade, it will not vanish. It will stay updated. Now you need to update yourself with the market. That's important. But if you're doing just it for the sake of certification, which generally in India our college students are doing, they are doing just it that let us crack the exam, we'll get the job. That's it. Their
Hmm.
agenda is not to understand the things behind the books.
Yes,
They don't want to read the newspaper, they don't want to track the share market, they don't want to understand how these companies are working, they don't want to understand different branches. They're just
yes,
doing, let us crack it, get the package of 10 lakhs, we are happy.
yeah. And trust me, if you do it that way, you might succeed in level one, but level two,
You
I don't think
will
the
not.
probability is that high
Yes,
to
concepts
clear
are
that.
very important. You need
So
to build a strong concepts, and their Squeezer book is just a summary. If you
exactly.
focus only on Squeezer, it's just a summary.
Yes,
Even
yes,
by memorizing the summary, you might be able to take 40 out of 80, but still there are 40 which you cannot take.
yes,
So read each and everything in minute detail and understand the logic, understand the concept behind each and every statement.
yes,
That's how you
absolutely.
will be able to go through your FRM part 2, and that's what you have done. And that's
Yes,
what other students have done who have passed their FRM part 2.
yes.
Okay. It's a good answer to all the question. Now, next question. Any suggestions for those who are going to appear in 2023, whether part one, part two, or anyone who have failed their exam going to reappear? Any suggestions? Because you have passed it, you have the experience, so your suggestions will be valuable.
So I think we have pretty much uh, gone through the same thing. But if you were to ask me, I would say three things. First thing is make a routine and stick to it. Second thing is consistency is the key. There is no shortcut. You have to put in 2.5 hours daily, and you have to make sure that you put in that effort for 1 year consistently to give yourself a good shot. Anyways, anything can happen in that 4 hours of exam, right? That is outside of our control, but to be able to have decent probability, this is required. And the third thing is I would say that go for mocks 2 weeks before the exam. And if you make sure that you are for level one, I would say that you should be looking at around 60% scoring in the mocks. And if you are getting there, then I think that should hold you in good stead. For level two, again, I would say that you should start early. As soon as you know that your level one went well, you should start preparing for level two at the same point, because trust me, those 100 chapters, 5 months is not enough. People will struggle. So it's better to use that time, whatever you have, from the day one. And then make sure that 1.5 months before the exam, you finish your syllabus, and then you spend 1.5 hours just going through the curriculum again, because no one will be able to retain everything. So
Correct.
the more number of times you go through it, the more probability that you will probably be able to remember.
Now, how those weekly tests and practice tests help you during your preparation? Solving
Yes.
questions means not only reading the concepts, how important it is to solve the questions side by side for each and every chapters.
So very important again, because if you think that you are going to read first and then come back to the questions later, trust me, you won't have the time. So it is very important that as soon as you are reading, you are solving the questions in parallel. And if you're struggling with some particular concepts or area, you go and try to understand it right then, because if you think that you'll come back to it later, there will be no time left. The second thing and most important thing is, in terms of your question banks and your tests, the most important part, it is cumulative. And because ultimately you have to remember all the concepts and all the information and all the knowledge across those 100 chapters, it is very important that you build that cumulative knowledge, and your tests are structured in such a way that you make sure that if you have considered if you have if the, a student has studied 10 chapters, there's a test that then tests the content for all those 10 chapters. So that gives the student, or the potential candidate, confidence to make sure, and the ability to retain all that information.
And how's your 20 days? How you manage those 20 days before the exam, just before the exam, those 20 days? How you control your nervousness during the
uh,
exam, 20 days revision before the exam? How you manage those last 20 days?
so it's it's difficult because I was all over the place, and trust me, when I got in the exam, the questions, that the first 7 or 8 questions, I absolutely had no idea what they were talking about. So very important again to, and it's very easily said than done. You have to control the nerves, basically, right? You don't have to panic. And then even if the questions starting are difficult for you to comprehend, you should not panic, because if you panic, then those 4 hours will potentially mitigate or negate whatever effort you have done in the past. So
Correct, correct.
coming to me for my preparation for last 20 days, I just kind of went through my notes itself that I had prepared, to make sure that I go through the most important topics, and focused on that. And yeah, I gave I think 4 or 5 mocks, and trust me, in all those 4 or 5 mocks, I was barely, I think, scoring 50 to 55%. But then I thought that, okay, even if I do it this way in the exam, I should be able to get through.
Yeah, I always suggested, Manshu, whatever mistakes you have to do, do it before the exam.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
if you're scoring 50 in your mocks,
yeah,
means you are learning from those 50s which are incorrect.
correct.
And that learning will help you in the exam.
Yes, yes,
So do whatever mistakes you are doing before the exam, you are not allowed to do the mistakes in the exam. So make yourself ready in that manner. And that's what you have done by solving these 4 to 5 mocks. There are students who don't practice, who don't give the mock exam, sit in the exam, and then come out and blame that I have not completed the syllabus, things are left out, questions are disguised, I'm unable to understand from where the questions are coming. See, the fact is that they are not going to be very direct, what you have
no,
studied.
no,
They are
yes,
going to
yes,
be very complex. And for
yes,
that complex part, you need to understand the things. You need to
yes,
practice the questions.
yes,
You have to put up your efforts simply. Means if I talk about myself, that if I've given you the videos, I have given you the practice test, I have given you the mock exams, short notes, everything. But you have to do it, right?
yes, yes.
Without your hard work, you cannot achieve the success.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think
Equal
that
efforts
effort,
needed to be there from the side of the teacher as well as from the side of the students.
yes, yes,
Correct?
yes,
And that's what you
absolutely.
have given.
Yes.
And that's you have achieved that result.
Yeah, that is required. And I mean, as we said, there are no shortcuts. If you think that if you don't put in an effort and you just go there and think that you're going to score in that exam, trust me, even from a probability logic perspective, right, out of 100, you can only get 25% right at random, right? So if you go there uh, without the necessary effort, then it's not going to work out.
Plans ahead.
Plans ahead, I just want to see if I continue to learn. The knowledge or the area is so vast that irrespective of whatever we do, we are always a student. So,
Always.
so keep on learning, keep on trying new things. There is no end to knowledge. I guess that's the message. You have to
Correct.
keep on upskilling.
Correct. Correct. So now this is a very good beginning for the year to you.
Yeah.
And we wish you luck for the
Thank
coming
you.
years ahead. And
Thank
you're
you.
always going to be my student. My
Thank you.
students will never become an ex-student. They are always my students forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
One day we'll definitely meet up with you and we'll celebrate your success.
Right. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you,
All the
Raman.
best. All right.